I'm Nadia Gurwell.
I'm John Goliatino.
I'm Michelle Blanchard. Welcome to 30 Minutes. Welcome to 30 Minutes. I am your host, Michelle Blanchard. Today, we will be talking about the National Association of Divorce Professionals, or NADP for short. The first of its kind association unifying professionals who serve clients through all stages of the divorce process. As a certified divorce financial analyst and certified financial planner, I am a member of the Western Fairfield County chapter of the NADP, and I'm very excited to be a part of this association. I initially became interested in the divorce planning process when members of my own family were going through the process themselves, especially those families with young children. So when I was approached to become a member of the NADP, I was immediately interested. Please welcome my first guest, Rosemarie Ferrante, Director of the Western Fairfield County chapter of the National Association of Divorce Professionals, and an attorney who specializes in mediation. Welcome to the show, Rosemarie.
Thank you, Michelle.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. As you mentioned, I'm a divorce attorney. I like to say I'm a reforms litigator, recognizing that the court is the last place where decisions on family matters should be decided. I chose to focus solely on divorce mediation.
Thank you. Please welcome our second guest, Barbara McMahon, VP of Merrill Lynch and the membership chair of the Western Fairfield County chapter of the NADP. Welcome to the show, Barbara.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Thank you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I work at the Merrill Lynch office here in Ridgefield. Pretty much what I do is handle the investment and financial planning for families and individuals. Our goal is very much to map out a financial strategy to make sure families are well equipped for college, for retirement, and any other life goals that they have.
And for those going through the divorce process.
Exactly.
Yes.
And that can be one of the most damaging, if you will, on so many levels, emotionally and financially. So we really want to make sure that all the people involved in the process, protect the capital assets and the families as well as they go through the process.
Right, absolutely. And to make sure that they're aware of all of the financial ramifications of the decisions that one makes going through the divorce process.
Yeah, we find that, a lot of people are so emotionally stressed during that time and so vulnerable as you would expect that sometimes it's just really hard to think about everything and all the ramifications, like you said, down the line and how it will affect you, whether it be from a tax standpoint, a retirement standpoint, and all the things that people rely on.
Right, the long-term ramifications as well. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So can we talk a little bit about what exactly is the National Association of Divorce Professionals?
Yes, so the NADP is the first of its kind in the nation. And it's an association that really unifies professionals from all areas and different industries, the legal industry, financial industry, real estate industry, and mental health. Recognizing that it takes a village to guide a family through the divorce process, the NADP's mission is to make a positive impact on the divorce process. And the way that we do that is by unifying these professionals, getting them together so they can collaborate, they can socialize, they can network, but most importantly, they can educate each other.
Absolutely.
There's so many areas that every decision you make in the divorce process impacts. And these decisions are so far-reaching and long-term. So you're making decisions on your finances, you're making decisions that impact your well-being, most importantly your children's well-being. And so the best way to guide a family through that process is for the professionals to be talking and to really help the clients understand and make educated decisions.
Absolutely. And Rosemarie, you and I have worked on several cases together to really collaborate and come up with solutions for these clients who are going through a divorce where the traditional divorce process would not work for them because they don't really understand or from a financial standpoint can't really support two households.
Correct. And it's happening more and more where people can't afford two households, and so they may be in a situation where they need to live together post-divorce for a time. That impacts all different aspects of their financial life, their emotional life, the well-being of their children, living together as a family post-divorce when people are trying to re-establish a relationship from the person you're going to spend the rest of your life with to co-parents.
Right.
How does that impact the children? How does that impact the family's expenses? There are obviously tax consequences.
Exactly, tax consequences, the best filing status, all of that.
Yeah.
Well, one of the good things about what Rosemarie does is, as a mediator, she's helping to preserve the family's financial future as well. Many times people litigate, and sometimes litigation is necessary if both parties can agree and come to the table, and so that's not off the table. But really, you know, as a financial professional myself and yourself, you know, we've seen a lot of times where people have squandered a lot of their hard-earned money just because they can't agree on child custody issues or retirement splitting issues or who's going to have visitation, and they'll drag this litigation out for so long that it just destroys the wealth of the family.
Absolutely.
And I do tell people often, you are still a family. So, you know, divorce sort of still has a negative connotation, a negative stigma attached to it. And I think as a whole, our society is starting to get away from that and starting to recognize that this is a restructuring of a family.
You actually had a statistic that we talked about,
I did, yeah.
which surprised me about the percentage who still feel that there's a stigma attached to divorce. And what was it, like 70 some percent?
It's 73% of Americans, according to the recent Gallup poll, that find divorce morally acceptable. And that's actually grown.
Morally acceptable. Okay.
But it's interesting when you flip it and think, wow, 23% of this country still finds it morally unacceptable.
Right.
But I think there's progress, and I think people are now recognizing we don't need to litigate. We don't need to. How do we beat each other up in court and then talk about who's spending Christmas with the kids?
Right.
It just doesn't make
Exactly.
sense.
Right. And that's what attracted me to this group, because it really focuses on across the financial professions on really coming together as professionals and trying to work together to get the couple, to get the children through the divorce process as unscathed as possible.
Absolutely.
Getting back to your comment about the mental health, I think it's great that we have mental health professionals in the group so that we can all come together to really try to work together and mitigate some of the bigger issues that come up when you're going through a divorce.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is because the organization is expanding rapidly, it's a national organization, and so for those of us that practice, you know, I practice in 20 states in terms of having clients, so it's very difficult for me to be able to go to each state if somebody's having a problem and vet out the right person. But nationally and locally, the organization already vets these people, all of the professionals out.
Right.
You know?
Let's talk a little bit about the vetting process, because I do believe that that's a very important
Absolutely.
component of becoming a member. You've kind of cleared that hurdle, so to speak, as far as referring other professionals to be in on a client situation, if you will.
Right. So on the membership side of things, what the beauty, and you know, I personally have been, and I'm sure you have too, been waiting for an organization to almost vet this stuff out, because we do it individually, and it's a lot of work to find the right person, because everybody's situation is different. So on the membership side, the vetting process. Make sure that you have an active certification or license in the profession that you're practicing. It also goes to the extent in finance, you have U4s. There's all different licenses. In legal, there's grievances. they double check your background and make sure you're clear. A lot of people may take a referral, but not really go behind the scenes and see.
Right. Well,
people
definitely
have a
not
lot-
to that level.
Right?
Exactly.
And so they even go further and do a social media search. They get references, business and personal. So there's a pretty exhaustive process to make sure that that trusted advisor can be trusted. And to that end, excuse me, in terms of a serious commitment, we get together, and if you're absent, more than a couple of times and you haven't put somebody in your place, you lose that spot because you have to have a commitment to the process.
Right,
and
absolutely.
it takes a while for us to get to know each other as well. So.
And tell me a little bit about who founded the NADP.
I'll do that. Vicky Townsend and Liz Becker are two women who are in Fort Lauderdale, and they started the NADP only 3 years ago.
Okay.
And they started it because in one of their own personal lives, having gone through divorce, they recognized that the professionals weren't speaking to each other. And I can give countless examples of how that happens, how I've seen that happen, and how it hurts the families going through the process. She and her partner got together and started this organization, and it's grown to over 400 members.
14 chapters,
14
right?
chapters. So they're not only in Florida, now they're in Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, I believe California and Georgia are launching. And within Connecticut, we're the third chapter, and there's another one forming as we speak. I think it's really speaking to the professionals who are like-minded, who are thinking, we want to help our clients better. And how else can we do that? We can all go to association meetings in our own various professions. And I can sit down next to a real estate attorney who's never, handled anything related to divorce, and that's great. I might at some point need a real estate attorney. But in our organization, we're attracting the real estate attorneys who have an interest in giving people the advice that they really need and collaborating with other professionals to better serve our clients.
Absolutely. And one thing that I found interesting is it's really not just attorneys, financial advisors, mental health professionals, real estate agents, but we also have jewelry owners who appraise jewelry. We have insurance brokers. I deal a lot, and I'm sure the same with you, Barbara,
Yes.
working with clients who now they have to go out and shop for their own health insurance.
Right.
So we can't do that.
Right.
That's an extensive process. So we actually work with somebody who does all of that legwork for us.
Right.
So that's another example of a great member.
Guardian ad litem's, forensic. I mean, we go
accountants,
very
CPAs.
deep into those 4 fields or 4 professions, depending on how complex or simple, the mediation or divorce can be. We really go deeper. It's not like we have one lawyer, one mediator. We have a choice of 3 in each subcategory.
Right.
So that if a person also has a chemistry with someone, you just sometimes get a vibe from somebody that, this person makes me feel good. I feel comfortable.
Right.
So, we'll refer to 3 that have already been vetted out in each category as we build.
And the max is 3 per category?
Correct.
Correct.
Right. And you also have clients who have a different need. So one particular attorney or financial advisor may not be a good fit for them, just
Exactly.
really based on their situation.
Exactly. Right.
Yes. So again, another thing that I find attractive about the NADP, and I really do, I am a big proponent of it, obviously, is the educational side of it.
It's a huge part of it.
So let's talk a little bit about the Ed Talks, if you will.
I agree. I think the Ed Talks are really drawing people in, and I think that we all can learn from each other.
I learn something new every day.
It's amazing. It's amazing, and some of the talks, so each of our members are asked to prepare an Ed Talk, and some of the Ed Talks that the NADP has heard are things like refinancing qualifications. A mortgage broker or mortgage banker can talk about that, because so often a house needs to be sold.
Right.
And it's very easy for an attorney to draft a provision that says this so-and-so needs to refinance within such and such time period.
Right.
That's all well and good, but if they can't qualify, what does that provision do?
Right. And in my experience in working with some clients, and Barbara, jump in if you will, there have been, I don't know recently if things have changed, but there are certain mortgage, not requirements, but there are certain ways that you can not refinance, and the term is escaping me, but
I know what you're talking about.
yeah, you can actually assume
the mortgage.
Yeah, assume the mortgage.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and again, that's something that we would learn from another mortgage professional to kind of work in that situation with the divorcing client.
And we can all keep each other abreast of new legislation or changes in our own industry, which the other professionals really need to know. These changes happen all the time. Health insurance is a huge issue these days in divorce.
It's
and people really need to budget and think about that and start thinking about it 6 months before the divorce date, not on the day you're getting divorced.
Absolutely.
And you bring up a good point. Regulations, we will stay on top of our respective business regulations, and those are always great and changing. So when you extend that to legal and tax and real estate and so forth, it's really a big impact moving forward. And you can't be a master of everything. I mean, all you can do is be an advocate, working diligently on your part. But if I have somebody that I'm talking to who is the CPA, I've seen, as you have, situations where the CPA did not talk, and you get the person later after it's over, and all of a sudden they have a tax liability that they really had no idea that this debt was out there. So it breaks your heart, and it's so preventable.
It's so preventable, and these are the things that cause stress in the divorce process. So when we get back to talking about the kids, all the mental health professionals that I speak to and the things I read about it are that it's not the divorce per se that hurts the kids. It's the stress that the parents are under, and it's the way that they deal with it.
Right.
And so, in doing all of this and in all these professionals speaking and not putting out fires, but dealing with these things before they become fires, helps people deal with the stress that the divorce is causing. And so let's decrease the stress. Let's help everybody make really good, educated decisions and make the process a lot smoother for everyone involved.
I find both before the actual divorce and post-divorce, because you're so emotional going through it. You're making all of these decisions, and if you have children, it just magnifies what you're going through, in my opinion. So if you have a team of experts working with you, both pre-divorce and post-divorce, to kind of reinforce what was already talked about, from tax implications to selling the house, all of that, I think that it just helps the client make a smoother transition, if you will.
We're asking people during the worst part of their lives, when they're feeling the most vulnerable, to make decisions that are impacting every aspect of their life. And therefore
future.
Impact and future, you're right, long-term decisions that are going to have long-term consequences. So the more that we can help them understand those decisions, and you're right, post-divorce, reinforce them, remind them there are things you still need to do. Great, you have this wonderful agreement that you worked really hard on negotiating. Now make sure it's effectuated. Don't just put it in a drawer and forget about it.
As well, what I like also is the wellness, mental health professional aspect of this, because you stick to the facts a little bit in terms of where things fall on a spreadsheet, where things go in modeling, business modeling and financial models. But at the end of the day, you want to keep them well through this process. So when you have therapists, psychiatrists, guardian ad litems, psychologists, when we have people all kind of working with us to keep a stability going through, it just really will make the process better and cost them less too, because I find if you don't involve somebody, I have a current client going through it, they will basically be on the phone with you for an hour if you let them,
You're
or
kind
2
of
hours.
cleaning up
You know,
after
and
effects.
really, I'm not skilled in that. I'm a good
Absolutely.
listener, perhaps. You are too. We all are, I'm sure. But at the end of the day, we're not skilled professionals in that area, and these people really are effective in trying to keep it calm, get the issues on the table, and really let go of the ego stuff, the control, the revenge, you know, whatever bad, negative things are going on.
Right. I am a big big proponent of alternative medicine. And one of the members, correct me if I'm wrong, she is a mental health professional, and part of her practice, she
therapy.
incorporates a lot of that, like yoga. She was talking about that during our last meeting. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, you know, she's got some great events coming up. She does a lot of yoga therapy with her clients, and she sees children and she sees adults. But she's awesome, and I do think that, you know, more and more the therapists who are working with people going through a divorce, there's something that's becoming more common, and it's a divorce manifesto, and they're really kind of setting the stage with their clients before they see the attorneys, before they really start making decisions. This is how we're going to do this. You know, perhaps our marriage didn't work for whatever reason. We're going to do divorce right, and we pledge that we're going to put our children first. When you're putting your children first, you really can't make any wrong decisions. You know, the lawyers can figure out the law part of it. You figure out what works the best for your family. And so there really is a nice balance between the professions when you have like-minded professions. More, you know, in the old days, and certainly in my prior litigation career, so often it was the professionals who were almost butting heads and who were just making things more difficult unknowingly, just because they weren't communicating. And there was a time, I mean, this is just a little example, but when therapists used to always tell clients, get out of the house if it's toxic, move. And the attorneys would say, don't leave the house. That's not really as usual anymore, but there was a time when if you left the house, it was considered your abandonment, and then it might negatively impact you financially in the divorce. So that's a good example of how we used to, you know, butt heads, and where is that getting people? Certainly not helping the family through this transition.
Right. During one of our last conversations, you had mentioned the term nesting. Talk a little bit about that, because that is interesting concept.
Yeah, so it's a newer approach to custodial arrangements, where parents who are both very involved in the children's upbringing are trying to arrange a situation where the children stay in the home and the parents come in and out, sort of like birds do when they come back and check on their little chickies. You know, it's a great idea. Now, I'm finding some clients can't afford 3 households. So that each parent presumably would have an apartment or somewhere else to live, and on parent A's time, they would come into the home and parent B would leave, and vice versa. We're seeing more modified situations now where, you know, perhaps one parent stays in the home but leaves and the other parent comes in. Again, it touches on a lot of different financial issues. Can you have an alimony situation when 2 people are living together, and what does the IRS say? Is that still a living together situation? So it's an interesting topic, and it seems to be working for some people, but it will be interesting to see how financially these things play out as you know, more and more financial professionals see this as an option. Now,
during our last chapter meeting, there was an attorney there. I don't think he was yet a member, but he came to really just kind of see what was going on, what the NADP is all about. And he is an attorney, correct me if I'm wrong, who specializes in the innocent spouse rule or situation relative to divorce decrees. And
so I believe that he's a tax attorney, and he was saying that he does do a lot of work, cleanup work, with spouses who agree in their divorce agreement that one person is taking any possible tax liability down the road. He explained to us, which many of us know, but some perhaps don't, that the IRS doesn't care what your divorce agreement says. And so it's a really, you know, again, I think that lawyers often put provisions in the agreement that after the fact, other professionals sort of need to clean up.
Yeah, and sometimes too, people will initiate a fight for a fight and don't even really want it, and don't even exercise what's been drafted or executed in the final order. And I see that a lot, and they've gone through all of this kind of tension, fighting, expense. And then we're like, oh, don't really need visitation. You know, there's just, it becomes so complicated sometimes.
Well, you're caught up in the emotional aspect and
winning in some regards.
And that's where you guys do come
and
in.
being right.
Really,
exactly. Right.
You guys really help the attorneys out in that regard by putting it on paper and really showing people what are we arguing about? Where, you know, after tax dollars, if it's an alimony, what are we talking about here?
Right.
And is this really worth the argument? Another one is exemptions. You know, people are so emotionally attached to, well, I need to get the exemptions for my children. It might not be of value to you.
Right.
Absolutely.
Why are you fighting over it?
Absolutely.
Let's run some numbers. So
let's go through those tax scenarios to really figure out
the facts.
At the end of the day,
both
parties are benefiting for the benefit of the children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
absolutely. Let's increase the net income for both of you.
Right.
As opposed to just throwing it away.
Absolutely.
I mean, just imagine, I mean, I think you said it well. It's about the children in the end. You know, they're kind of innocent bystanders, and they're viewing all of this.
Right.
And if we, you know, we do so many other great things for children, and I know that everybody's intentions going through this are good, but you kind of get lost. And kids pick up everything.
Absolutely.
And
they're little sponges, as I like to call them.
and they're the effect of all this stuff going on. And, you know, you can sit there in denial and say, oh, they'll be fine in the end, kids are resilient.
Right.
Well, you know, they feel they hurt, and the sooner you can get it over in the most diplomatic way, most amiable way, the better off just everybody can move on with their life.
I just wanted to circle back to the educational aspect of being a member of the NADP. Can you talk a little bit about the event that's coming up, the Split documentary that is being shown in the city?
Yeah, so on October 11th, we're having our first Northeast multi-chapter event. And we're screening the movie Split, which is a children's perspective, a movie about divorce from the children's perspective. And then there'll be a panel of members speaking on just the various issues that the film raises. And you know, one of the other nice things that the NADP does, in addition to on a local level getting professionals together, is now we're going to be getting together with the chapters from New Jersey, New York, and the other chapters in Connecticut.
Right, so
to collaborate and to socialize and to meet each other, and again, to really just broaden our network of professionals.
Right, to continue on the education aspect of, which I think is one of the biggest benefits of becoming a member.
Absolutely.
It's huge.
If you would like to find out additional information on the NADP, it's www.thenadp.com. Thank you again for joining us.